Hey everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, and welcome to our channel. But this one, a bit of a different conversation than we normally have here on the chat, and it's an important conversation to have, and one that really strikes a tone with me and will also strike a tone with my guest that'll be joining me here in just a minute. But I wanted to kind of set up the conversation with this, that many men are hesitant to talk about their mental health, let alone seek treatment for it. And new data has shown it's literally killing them. According to newly released CDC data, the number of suicides has risen to 8% for males ages 15 to 24 in 2021, surpassing suicide rates for females by about 4 times. Many men experience the pressure to, quote, man up and keep their emotions, stress, and trauma to themselves. This is especially true for male athletes who are expected to manage these pressures while performing at the highest athletic level. And to dive into this, especially with the recent tragedy at the University of Virginia, we're bringing on a NFL player, a former Jets player, in Doug Middleton to the conversation to try to progress this forward and raise awareness and answer a lot of the pressing questions that surround some of these very issues. So without further ado, let's bring him in. That is Doug Middleton carving out some time for us today. Doug, I really appreciate it, man.
Paul, appreciate you, man. Happy to be back in front of Just Nation.
Of course, we all love you, man. Of course, I know you spent your career in a few different places, but we don't forget, my man, that you spent the first not one, not two, but 3 seasons with the gosh darn New York Jets, the best football team there is. And so I appreciate you making sure that you always remember your green and white brethren, my friend.
Yes, sir, Paul. I appreciate that, man. It's always family. The Jets were my favorite team growing up, and I'll be getting a chance to play with my favorite player, Darrelle Revis. Dream come true, and will forever cherish my time there.
And by the way, of course, he's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a first eligible candidate. Am I correct here, Doug?
I think so. I think he should be in there. What do you think? I mean, first ballot for sure. I mean, you look at that 09 season, there's not many that can compare to it.
You're damn right. Of course he should be. I mean, for me, and I don't know how you feel it as a former player, so I'd love actually your perspective on this before we get into our much more serious conversation. But for me, as a fan, as a former high school player, much lower on the totem pole, but nothing like a Doug Middleton, obviously. But I'll tell you, for me, I feel like there's a special je ne sais quoi to someone who gets in first ballot. Like, of course, everyone's a Hall of Famer. Everyone who gets a gold jacket. I mean, it's an amazing honor. You're busting and that's special. But I feel like it's the 1%. It's the elite club among the elite club. When you get in first ballot, that's just the tip of the cap to your career, that you're even in a asterisk special class with the entire Hall of Fame. And I feel like obviously Revis deserves that. Do you feel like, Doug, just real quick, that there is that special class? I've had some people disagree with me over the years, and that's okay. People love being wrong. That's fine. Just get on the other side of me. But I just feel like there is that special sauce. Is there or not really?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely agree with that. But at the same time, there's a lot of talented guys in this class that's coming up. I mean, Darrelle Revis is a great player, and get me, I never be confused by saying that he's definitely my favorite player. But at the same time, there's a lot of respectable candidates in this class, and you're correct. I mean, it is the elite of the elite if you can get in that first time, but you never know who those guys are compared to at that time and who's all Hall of Fame eligible. But right now, jumping in this next class, there's some guys that a lot of them deserve to be first ballot for sure.
Yeah, that's a very fair counterpoint, Doug. I appreciate that because, again, for NFL players, for those who are unaware of the Pro Football Hall of Fame eligibility, after you retire, it's 5 years later. So obviously, think about the pool. Think about the players that have taken so long to get in. Like T.O., it took 3 years. What the hell's going on there? I don't know, but I digress. But there's other guys, Andre Reed, Tim Brown, Chris Carter, a lot of the greats, and that was just wide receivers. But obviously, there's players even beyond that took a long time for them to get in. So there could be a backlog. There can be years of eligible first-time candidates. So maybe it's not fair to just completely label it in that sense. Because, again, if I could get in on the 47th time, I would sure get that. First or 47 wouldn't make any difference to me. But I think you bring up a good point there, Doug. And so, Doug, there's no easy way to transition to this, but I do want to bring this up because, again, as a former NFL athlete, I think you have a special, unique background to this entire conversation that can, in terms of suicide prevention. And I know you have a specific story yourself to share. I'll just say I've never shared this story publicly before, Doug, but I had my own situation with suicide, and fortunately, my parents stopped me. I was back in around the high school, early college phase, and something hit me, and I had made the decision that I was going to do something that I thought I was going to go through with it. And my plan was to, again, this is a very dark and scary thing to share. I've never shared this before publicly, but once I saw the people reach out about Doug, you appearing on the show and talking about this, this just struck a chord with me. And this was a decision I thought I was going to actually go through with it myself. Fortunately, my parents were there. They sensed something was off. They never let me leave the house. And I'm a fully functioning, happy as go lucky guy as I could possibly be. And again, tomorrow's never promised. So waking up is a blessing. So I'm so blessed that was able to happen. But not everyone has that with their story and has that kind of ending. But Doug, I know you have a special story to share with your own experience with suicide in your life. If you could please share as we kind of dive into this conversation.
Yeah, Paul. So first, let me say, I really appreciate you sharing. We can't take that moment for granted that you felt vulnerable enough to share that in front of our Jets community. And, I also want to let you know that you're not alone in any battle that you faced or anything that you've been able to overcome. You gave the statistics in that, you sharing that journey with a lot of others, a lot of other men who have battled, who are consistently battling right now. And so just connecting that to my story, just the battle that I faced in my life as a student athlete, as a professional athlete, and then also the battle that friends and athletes around me have continued to face. I wanted to have the opportunity to come back in front of our Jets Nation and share what's on my heart. And so what it really comes down to is the fact that mental health, mental illness in the men category, in the men community, is something that's very we don't talk about it enough. And there's not enough support groups, there's not enough resources. But with ADAA and being able to get connected with you all, I've been able to have this platform now to go out and continue to speak on that. And so hence we are, in 2022, I've been in the NFL now for 6 seasons, and I've shared a lot of tough times. What I mean by that is being able to be on different teams. I've bounced around the league the last couple of years, and I started off with the New York Jets my first few years. And even then, there was a lot of adversity that I had to face with back-to-back season injuries in 2017 and 2018. And during that time, it was very tough because the game that I love so much was taken away from me. This game that we go out and we put everything into, and to be honest, at times we put our identity into it. And when all that happens, it's tough when we lose that game. It's really tough to adjust. It's really tough to define ourselves. And so my work that I've been doing over the last few years, especially since my second season with the New York Jets, has been around helping other student athletes and helping other youth really just find themselves outside the game. And what I mean by that is thinking about life beyond the game. On Monday, doing some work back at App State, we had an event where we connected all of our current student athletes with all of our former student athletes that are, have careers now, that are working and have been able to learn how to define themselves outside of the game, outside of their jersey, and being able to adjust back into the real world. And so with that, it's always been something that's been very passionate to me. And that's because in 2017, I lost my best friend to suicide. And it came from, both of us being student athletes, and both of us really just going through the same grind together, and really having some of the same story that we've had to overcome. And that's being an athlete. You held to this high, these high measurables and these high standards. And at the same time, you make mistakes just like anyone else. You have to overcome battles in your life just like anyone else. And, every time you may mess up or may make a mistake is getting the ultimate scrutiny, and that's what we're seeing with a lot of our athletes these days. It's like, we slip up one time and next thing you know, we lose endorsement deals. We lose our name. We lose our credibility. And so, back in 2017, my best friend, he was a student athlete. He started to suffer from severe depression. And, at that time, there weren't enough resources out there for him. And, 5 years after his battle, we lost him to suicide. And I just want to credit, ADAA for their work and anxiety and depression, because that's the same thing that my friend was suffering from severe depression. And what happened was he had a traumatic event in his life that really altered the way he saw life. And my mom, she's a therapist. I'm very passionate about mental health. At that time, there was a lot of things that I did not know about mental health. There's a lot of education that I wasn't aware of. There was a lot of resources that I wasn't aware of. And since then, I've been able to, educate myself more so I can be able to help out other student athletes and other youth. And so, just spending time, in the NFL, I've seen some of the work that we've done to really improve our support system with our current athletes. And they've done a great job in making sure that we have, access to therapists and access to, support groups, and are, able to know the situations that make it real tough when we get cut or, we get injured, and we have people that can be there and support us. But yeah, I just, I really appreciate getting this time to talk with you about this subject that I care so much about. And, I just want to start the conversation there.
Of course, and I think something that I didn't know, and I'm sure a lot of people don't, the data shows that up to 35% of elite athletes will suffer from a mental health crisis during at some portion of their career, with other details that we'll provide throughout this conversation. Doug, how much of the stereotype is actually true? Again, me, obviously on a much, or I on a much lower level, obviously in the sporting realm, but I did feel a constant pressure. And, I'm proud of the 2 awards that I'm staring at over in my man cave of the toughest player on the team. I felt like, as a guy who's 5'3" on a slanted hill, that I had to do more to overcompensate, to show all my teammates that, I may not be the biggest, strongest, fastest, whatever, but I'm going to take the biggest hits. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to do whatever it takes to reach the next level. And I think not only from my own physical limitation standpoint, but also from the sport. Like football is as masculine as you get. It's high contact. It's physical. It's violent. There's a lot to that. And with that is almost this machizo involved in it, that you feel like you have to, like, anytime emotions or like potentially mental health, especially when I was playing, is that like mental, what is that? No, put that aside. It's about winning. It's about the football team. It's about this. How much of those stereotypes are actually true? And football players, just like yourself at the professional level, are kind of trained to push all of these thoughts and emotions down and not worry about it. And sometimes, obviously, that can lead to some bad situations with things kind of bottling up if they're not able to channel a lot of these feelings and emotions that are natural for every human being.
Yeah, Paul, you bring up some great points, man. It's really a lot of different points that I can hit. The first being, let's hit with our original thought going into this thing. So in 2011, I signed with Appalachian State as a freshman, and I'm at the school, and I'm lifting, I'm running, I'm going in school and doing classes, and really just trying to push myself to as hard as I can. In that point in time, I really didn't have a comprehension of what mental health was. I only really understood physical health. Being able to try to go as hard as I can for as long as I can. And the only way to do that was just to push myself harder. And so that carried over to the way that I thought about mental health when I first started to hear what mental health was. And I started to think that every situation that we go through, we can just push through. We can just continue to overcome. And there's not anything that where we need to take a break or reset. There's no such thing as that. And so that's what I originally believed, as a young athlete. And to be honest, that's what I was trained to think as a young athlete from, just people that are around other athletes, coaches, and really just people that want to see you win and want to see you have success on the field. And so as I'm getting older, I'm getting later in my careers as a college athlete, I start to kind of see the other side of it. I start to kind of see what it looks like to be both, physically healthy and also mentally healthy. I'm getting a chance to see both sides. And really, when I got into the NFL, later in my career, that's when I really identified how, some of these athletes that are, the great athletes that we respect and love so much, the Tom Brady's, didn't want to throw that.
Thanks for bringing that up, Doug. Come on. This is a Jet show, for Pete's sake, Doug. What's happening over there?
I know. But I mean,
proceed.
The athletes that we see, achieve so much and win so much, is not only because of what they're able to do with their bodies, but it's also what they're able to do with their minds. And that's what really separates us, is that if we can just really channel what's in our minds and be able to take it to the highest level, then that's how we become the best version of ourselves. Well, what does that look like? You see all these different reports about LeBron James and Russell Wilson spending all these, millions of dollars on their body on
Yeah.
recovery. Well, I didn't know much about recovery. I knew a lot about recovery when it came to physical health. I knew to get my massages, get in the cold tub, different things like that. But I had no idea what recovery meant for my mental health. And a lot of guys kind of miss that picture. We kind of miss that we're not really educated on what recovery looks like for mental health. We're not really educated on the importance of what this, what recovery may mean for improvement on our mental health. And so when we connect and show that our physical health is just as important as our mental health, that's when we really have to start to have the conversation about self-care. How do we truly as men take care of ourselves? How do we make sure that we're able to push ourselves to the last straw? You can, at any time you go in a weight room right now and you go try to max out and squat 500 pounds, you're going to be sore the next day. But with pain comes growth. But at the same time, in order to get through that soreness, you may have to go get in a cold tub. You might have to get a massage. You may have to go get a protein shake. Those are things that you can do for your physical health. And for our mental health, that self-care looks like, hey, we might have to go see a therapist. We might have to do medicine. We might have to just find some ways to relax. We might have to treat ourselves to a dinner. We might have to find out some things that we can do, some CBT, some journaling, some coloring. There's all kind of activities we can do as men to improve our mental health and love ourselves and value ourselves. And so that's what I've been kind of focusing on lately, is getting the word out about self-care and ways that we can improve our mental health. And I think I think that needs to be more at the forefront of the conversation, is if we continue to push ourselves like this, how are we recovering? Because if we continue to push and push and push and never think about recovery, eventually we will break. And that's why you're seeing the stats so high.
Again, we're speaking with NFL defensive back Doug Middleton. Of course, who started his career with the New York gosh darn Jets, baby. But, Doug, you didn't get to spend your entire career with the Jets, which I think is a natural transition here to some of the things you were just talking about, is that there have been moments and trials and tribulations in your life, from, season-ending injuries to, jumping from place to place, location to location, from team to team. What are some of the ways that you have found to cope? Because I can only imagine that when you have those season-ending injuries, the NFL world keeps spinning. So you're almost like a ghost in the medical facilities, in the locker room. They're all worrying about the current week's game plan, and you're worrying about your own injury and fighting your way back to get back on the football field next year. I imagine there's a lot of dark demons involved in that, whether receiving the call for a release or getting that conversation. How were you able to cope with a lot of that? Because that's a lot of negative vibes and energy that can lead people to dark places.
Yeah, man, Paul, you bring up some great points, man. All the things you talked about are really tough times that I have to experience in my life, when in my career, when you talk about being released or season and the injuries, some things that were very, very, very tough to overcome. But things that I can really point to that helped me out of it. Number one, my faith, my belief in Jesus Christ has really helped me in knowing that at the end of the day, God has a bigger plan, and that everything that I was going through was just, to make me a better person, and really to even help out other people that may go through, similar trials and tribulations in their life. The next thing I would say is, I really tried to just live in the moment and be appreciative of the fact that, hey, yes, this dream is tough, but I'm getting to live a dream that, some people wish they could live. And that was, one way that I started to comprehend and think about the situation. But really, that second time, I had that season and the injury in 2018, and, really having the other pec and then losing my best friend at the same time. It was really tough. That's when, I really slipped into a really a tough spot. During that time, I've had a lot of great friends and family in my support system that's been able to help me. And that's one thing that I can point to others as a way, that they can look for encouragement too, is identify a support system, identify people that you can put in your corner. And then the next thing that we talked about earlier is just really that self-care. I remember, every opportunity that I had to make the roster the next week, I would take myself on a dinner. I would go right there to Root Steakhouse, right there in Morristown, and it was every Tuesday after 4 o'clock, and I knew that I had made had been will have a job, and
Sure.
that
Yeah.
was
That's
one
those
way
are
that
good.
I could,
Yeah.
that was one way that I could just say, hey man, I'm just grateful for the way that I'm continuing to battle. I'm grateful for the way that I'm pushing myself, and I'm just honoring the work that I continue to do each and every day, and just being able to take a step back from everything and just really be grateful. And that was one thing that I did every Tuesday. And you can even ask some of the
What was the
bartenders, man.
meal, by the way, Doug? Not to interrupt, but I need to hear the full. What were the side dishes? What was the
Yeah,
cold beverage along with
yeah,
it? Give me
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
deets.
yeah, yeah. It was a Tuesday. We had practice the next
Of
day, so
course, of course.
it wasn't too cold of a beverage at that time. But I think I did. Now, I was
Mm.
early in my career, so I wasn't drinking wine on Wednesdays just yet. I was that kind of came later on once I was able to just be okay with the situation. But
Yeah.
yeah, I always had a good steak. Mashed
Mm.
potatoes were the favorite. Um, a lot of people don't like Roots bread, but I was a huge fan of Roots and their bread, man.
Wow.
I love
Okay.
Roots bread. And then some mac and cheese, man. Those are my two go-tos.
How'd
And
you like the steak? What was the grade on that?
I like the steak. I would give the steak at Roots a B plus. A B plus.
Okay.
I like some other places. I like I think STK in the city is really good. I would I have that in my repertoire. And then
Are you a medium? A medium rare?
I'm a
Where's
medium.
the
I'm a
cook
medium
on that?
guy. Paul, I'm a medium
Okay.
guy, man. I'm a
And no
medium guy.
questions asked. No
Yeah.
debate. Okay. I just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure.
medium guy. I gotta be able to taste a little bit of flavor, but I'm not that bold to go on that medium rare side. I'm not there yet. So we both.
I see that I can appreciate. Well, we were just talking about some potential side dishes for steak, which are always delicious. But I think another thing that is delicious in a different way is that I think a lot of people, I can even speak to my own situation. When I was battling my own demons, Doug, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know what resources were available. So I
Yeah.
was kind of left as a creature of my own thoughts when I was battling these demons like when I was alone and just staring off into the distance and just trying to understand what my next step was. And when I couldn't see the next step, that's where I went to that dark place. And again, luckily, I was stopped before I even attempted to do something that could have been obviously very, traumatic. I wasn't sure the resources, but I guess the resources kind of smacked me in the face as my parents preventing that situation from happening. But what are some resources that are available out there for people who are struggling with mental health?
Yeah. I was the same way as you, Paul. I didn't think there were many resources until they just kind of smacked me in the face too. And one of the main ones is ADAA. I think the Anxiety and Depression Association. I think they're a great organization that does a lot of great work with people who suffer from anxiety and depression, and they're making a lot of progress in that mental health space and being able to bring resources to our front door. When you talk about support groups, when you talk about education, those are things that really are apparent and really has helped me in my life, in my own battles, and the battles of my friends, is being able to be educated. You ever feel like a little pain in your chest or something, you don't know what it is, and that's
Hmm.
because of, education part. If you were able to know what exactly it was that you're going through, then that would help you make some progress. So it's the same thing with your mental health. If you know why you may feel this way, or why, today, for some reason it's raining, and I'm not really reacting well to that. Well, that comes from education and knowing more about that. And then the next thing is being able to be connected to, support groups, be able to connect it to a therapist, be able to connect it to other resources that are out there. Other things I can think of, man, just being able to look at what works for you. Everybody's self-care, everybody treatment plan is totally different. What works for you may be different than what works for me. It's not like it's a broken ankle where there's a one stop, a one way that you have to get it done. There's no straightforward course of action with that, and you have to really try different things. And I think that's what I've been able to learn the most since my best friend has died, is that there's not one solution for all mental health issues. And so that's what I would say. Of course, there's a lot of other great organizations doing work there. Alongside ADAA, that you have the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, NAMNI, two other organizations that are doing awesome work. So I would start there, reaching out, checking out their website, looking at the resources that they have on their website, and then just kind of taking it from there.
Well, Doug, I heard you say there's not one solution in terms of some of the self-care, but I think that steak sounds pretty good. I think I'm going to have to dive in a little bit on that. I'll have to talk to my fiance about the once a week thing, see if we can work that into the budget. But that is something that is an inspiring thought that is now in my brain. And I have to, of course, go back. We have to go back to the beginning here. Doug, you mentioned this a little bit about your foundation, Dream the Impossible, this foundation that gives young male athletes mental health education, as we're discussing here, financial literacy and post-athletic career planning, because that seems like another thing that a lot of players struggle with once they start getting to the deeper parts of their career, because in their mind, I'm sure in the moment, a lot of these players are like, football is plan A, B, C, D, and that's everything. And then once it's suddenly taken away from you, whether you're a Tom Brady, I guess, if you want to bring up that one, Doug. Thanks for that one. We'll try to forgive you for that. If you're a Tom Brady and you can choose when you want to walk away, that's a much different situation than a player that is lesser than Tom Brady and the career is taken away. You find out the career is over when you're not getting that phone call anymore. Then all of a sudden the harsh realization that you have to pivot somewhere else for your career. I imagine that very last bullet point about the Dream the Impossible is perhaps one of the most powerful tools that you guys have for that planning for the next step.
Yeah. Dream Impossible, man, is we've been doing some really good work since 2017, helping with our youth and helping them think about life beyond whatever sport that they play and helping them understand that, you can still focus on your life and your career outside of your sport and still have success. We're not saying that, hey, you have to only, focus about football. We're saying, hey, you have to think about that, your sport's going to end tomorrow. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that, hey, you have 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours in a day, and there's no way you can practice all 24 hours. Why not spend a couple of those hours thinking about how you define yourself outside of your sport? And so we've been able to help a lot of our youth and really connect them to college and connect them to, financial literacy education, teaching them how to serve in the community. And, we've been doing great work, and I'm very proud to continue to support our organization.
So, Doug, let me ask you that. Again, you're this superstar, handsome-looking, safety in the NFL on the football field. That's what everybody knows you for. But who is Doug Middleton off the field?
Yeah. For me, first, I'm a husband. I've been
Okay.
married. I've been dating. Well, not dating, but been with my spouse since. Well, really, we've been together since 2011. We met in college.
Wow.
Appalachian
Any
State.
tips? Any tips? I've been with my fiance since 2015. Any tips?
Yeah, any tips, man? I think the biggest tip is just to find somebody that you both understand each other's life and their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were both student athletes, and that's what brought us together. Is that we both understood what each other was going through, and we were able to be for each other and able to support each other. And I think just to continue to invest in your relationship. A lot of people, they get married and they think the investment is done at that point. I'm only a year and a half in marriage, so I can't give you a whole book. But
I see.
what I can say is that, one thing is to be able to continue to invest in your marriage, and whether that's spending time with your spouse, going out, I don't know, doing nice things for her. That's what I don't have much free game to give on that. I'm a young pup in the game, but I would say that's one thing. I'm also a child of God. I'm a believer. That's how I would also define myself. And I love to do, yoga. I love to do yoga
Wow.
outside of just my daily life. So
Is that like a hot yoga thing, or is that just like in the park yoga, just roll it out and here we go?
Big hot yoga guy. I'm actually opening up a yoga studio in Charlotte. So
wow,
that's one thing that I'm working on right now. But yeah, big hot yoga guy. I love to sweat. Love to work out. And then also I could define myself being I just love to serve. I love to serve others. I love to help others accomplish their dreams. And somebody may share with me their dream, and I'm going to do everything that I can to help them accomplish it.
Well, Doug, it's a beautiful message. I know this is sometimes, in a lot of respects, a very tough conversation for a lot of people to even open these doors or to open their ears to listen to these conversations. And, so brave of you to be able to tell these stories and how you were able to start your foundation. And it's already made a difference for me in our conversation. Again, this was a clear thing when I saw it. My email was impossible. I said, "Oh baby, we gotta let's go full court press. Let's make this happen." This is a powerful conversation. Not enough of these conversations are happening right now, and there are ripple effects that can happen. If just one person watches this show right here, right now, it can make the difference, and this was totally worth it, and I imagine it's going to be a lot more than one. So, Doug, I just want to say off the top, thank you so much for carving out the time for this. This is massively important, and I really appreciate it.
Paul, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate Jets Nation. And shoot, let's continue to get these wins. Let's get in the playoffs, man.
Yeah, well, I like the playoffs. I'm trying to get a Super Bowl championship. I'm trying to get some ring. I wasn't even alive. My father was one. Okay, well, we need a championship. We need a little forever. If you feel my drift here, and maybe what the Jets need is Doug Middleton back. I don't know if you got the phone on vibrate, but may need a call. We may need some help.
Yeah, it's always on vibrate, man. Joe Douglas got my number, man. He know where I'm at. So.
Okay, that's good. Well, Doug, before we get you out of here, of course, I want to provide the platform. If there's anything we missed in this conversation that deserves some more information, where people can find out more about not only your foundation, but in general, any other additional information we possibly missed during this beautiful conversation.
I think we covered it all, man. You talked about ADAA. We talked about my foundation, Dreaming Impossible. We talked about me. I talked about the yoga studio. I'm all good, man. Yeah, the new yoga studio in Charlotte, Dream Yoga and Wellness. It's a luxury wellness option. Just really teaching us that our mental health and our physical health are directly linked. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, fantastic, Doug. Thanks again for joining us. This was fantastic. And again, hopefully this won't be the last time we're chatting.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
All right, there he is, Doug Middleton, former Jet safety and long